The President of Seychelles, Danny Faure, was sworn in October 2016. He holds the portfolios of Defense, Public Administration and Legal Affairs. He was a minister since 1998. He's overseen the first set of IMF reforms and continues to do so. He was a vice president and now is so graciously hosting us here in Mahe in Victoria in the State House. President Faure, thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you.
India and Seychelles go way back to even the time when the immigrants had come in. So much has changed, but so much is still the same. In Indira Gandhi's time, Rajiv Gandhi's time, two coups were probably foiled. And now we're still moving forward with Prime Minister Modi. You will be meeting him for the third time this year.
Yes. And it's a sign of the relationship that we have. Excellent relationship. The ties between our two people, two government. So it is in this context.
Prime Minister Modi, when he also started out on his Indian Ocean region travels, Seychelles was one of the places where he came in 2015 as well, and there were various agreements that were signed. You are going now on a historic, your first state visit to New Delhi, and we're looking forward to be as gracious hosts with you as well. Cooperation between India and Seychelles is so multifaceted. It's trade, it's culture, it's roots, it's military, it's security, it's economy. It's a very multifaceted relationship.
Because it's a partnership. So the partnership is not only in one sphere of development. We have always had this, as I said, this excellent relationship with and friendship with India. And the partnership that we have with India is one which is of mutual respect. It's one based on trust. And we share common aspirations in the world that we belong to. We both, as nations, we stand for peace. We stand for development. We also stand for sustainable development of our people.
The Prime Minister's initiative was also called Sagar, which in Hindi means sea, but it's again reflecting the same aspirations that you just mentioned of partnership. It's not of inequality, it's of give and take, of realizing each other's potential and working towards something better for the entire region, while you're doing that individually as countries as well.
India, your population is over 1 billion. Ours is less than 100,000.
Just about reaching there soon.
So basically, it is no longer about the size of the country. It is fundamentally human development and human dignity and the aspirations of our people. So this is what the relationship is all about.
Being a 153 island archipelago stretched over such vast areas of sea and your economic interests, anti-piracy, anti-drugs, that's one area where India has been and can continue to really help the Seychelles.
Over the last 40 years, since our independence, we realized that with the vast EEZ that we have, which is practically the size of South Africa and twice the size of Madagascar, on our own as a country, it was not possible for us to build the capacity and to have the necessary assets. So India, as our neighbor, as a good friend of ours, and based on the partnership that we have, India has been with Seychelles, along Seychelles, and in good times and in bad times. We have received technical cooperation in the defense and in the security. And because of the support that we have received from India, we have been able, over the years, to build our own defense forces.
When you're talking about military cooperation, what has been talked of late this year especially has been the facility at Assumption. Is it still stuck internally, politically?
India understands, the Prime Minister understands the Seychelles position. And what I am happy about that there hasn't been any moment whereby the government of India has tried to influence our domestic politics. India is a democracy. Ours, we are an evolving democracy. And we are building institutions. I am, as president, I'm head of the executive, but I do not have a majority in our parliament, in our National Assembly. And the difference between your system and our system is that ratification has to go through Parliament. Although there has been an agreement, I have decided not to submit the agreement to National Assembly for ratification because I received the signals that it won't go. So as we speak, there is the agreement won't go before our National Assembly. But it doesn't mean that the ambition of my government, my administration, for us to have a Coast Guard facility on Assumption does not remain. We will continue to do that as on our own, as government of Seychelles, to have a facility on that island. It is important because of what is happening around in our waters. So we will continue to do that on our own.
Again, like you're saying, the Indian government and the government of Seychelles is in a partnership, and there has been nothing thrust on you, or you're not trying to influence anything that's happening here. But have you understood, or can you explain to us why there is opposition? Is it only because of environmental concerns? Is it because of concerns that a foreign country is taking over a part of your country? Why are they concerned?
I think basically, and the concerns are genuine. Fundamentally, it came out as a wrong communication, and I would say an understatement internationally, that India was about to set up a base, and that was not the intention of the government of India. The intention of the government of India was to have a facility, but this facility would have a joint operation of this facility. Secondly, there has been real concerns in the area of environment, because Assumption is not far from Aldabra Atoll, which is a UNESCO World Heritage. So these were the concerns. But the idea of having a small, and I repeat, a small Coast Guard facility to protect our islands, and in the area of security, maritime security and defense, remains part of the strategy of the defense of Seychelles.
President Faure, if I've understood how you've worked in this office in the State House, it has been to project a bipartisan kind of leadership. You gave up the leadership of your own party for those reasons, is how we see it. Is that moving forward in terms of getting the opposition, especially in this particular project, or do you think that domestic politics, the domestic ambitions of political leaders in the opposition are also partly the reason for, say, an opposition like this on this issue?
Well, I think they have expressed themselves openly in Parliament and out of Parliament, and in my meeting with them, they have expressed themselves clearly. So I understand the position, and I think the relationship between India and Seychelles will go beyond our time as politicians. It is a relationship between two people.
Yeah. So you're visualizing this fructifying in the long term. Analysts who look at this region, the Indian Ocean region, see it also as game between big regional powers. India, China. India looks at China in some senses as trying to encircle it with a string of pearls. Is China involved in any aspect in Seychelles itself? Because we know they're all the way up to Djibouti.
Historical context, you know, the oceans, our seas, we've had Portuguese, Spain, Spanish, European, they've traveled the oceans. And it is only, I would say, the last 15 years that China is developing, trying to deal with poverty, underdevelopment. India also, it's developing. So both nations are now catching up, but they are doing the right things for their own people. India is dealing with abject poverty, and there is growth. In fact, you have achieved average growth over the last decade on an average of around 4 to 6%. So as China. And the volume of trade in the Indian Ocean has increased tremendously. Okay? And Africa as a continent also has been developing. We leaders in Africa, we are no longer stuck into the problems that we had 25 years ago, fighting amongst each other, one another. We are now trying to deal with the problems of poverty, diseases, industrialization. So we are looking at the welfare of our countries. We want to develop. So as a country, the more we develop, and we have been able to do that not on our own, but we've received assistance from all partners. China has been present in Africa, and China has also been present in Seychelles. China has helped Seychelles in its socio-economic development, like India has also helped Seychelles in our socio-economic development. So we have looked towards India and China with the same friendship. So this is a place whereby we have welcomed all partners, and at no time have we found ourselves under any pressure from the Chinese government, not at all.
Or either side. So it's not as if smaller countries try to play off the bigger countries to gain the most for themselves. You wouldn't say that at all.
No, I can say that sincerely. Not from China, not from India.
Again, if you look at the ways that India and China have been developing over the years and developing their outreach as well, there seems to be a different kind of model. India is more in a partnership kind of mold, whether it's cultural or ties that have been there through the decades. It seems to many that China imposes some kind of checkbook diplomacy which lands countries into debt. We've seen things happen in Sri Lanka, we've seen the Maldives as well. Is that something you're keenly aware of, or is that something that doesn't worry you at all?
No, in Seychelles, our relationship has been very, very different. And I think it's a relationship based on respect. And I have found that from my interaction with Prime Minister Modi, the leaders of India, and I have seen that from the relationship that I have with the Chinese government. Big countries, size of your country, size of population, but genuine respect for a small country like Seychelles. And our relationship has never been one of dictate by a big country on a small country. And I think it is in this context that I believe that Seychelles, our relationship will grow with both India and China.
Again, you said that the relationship between the two countries will outlive both leaders and parties that are currently in power, indicating, of course, we get what you're indicating there, that India's military and security cooperation with Seychelles has been immense. My figures are right, 50% of probably the assets, military assets, naval, the Dornier that was given, there'll be another Dornier. about 70% of training. So there has been that close interlinkage, but it's not as has been portrayed, military base being set up. We've had, over the last 2 years, 8 Indian naval ships which do turnarounds. Last year it was 11. So that is continuing.
It will continue.
Yeah.
More will come. Yeah. So it is a genuine relationship. It is a partnership. Our defense capabilities, we have, and the main source of this this capacity and the capabilities that we have has been from India. So here I can also state that we will continue with our Indian military cooperation because it has been one based on mutual respect and trust, and our own military personnel have benefited a lot over the last 40 years through a lot of training. But not only in the military, we have over 1,000 Seychellois that have received high-tech training in India. We don't talk about it, but I should be talking about it, and I think it is important that we thank the Indian government for that. And a lot of our development here, we could not be in a position where we are today without the Indian skilled laborers that have come to Seychelles. And they came many years before, and they keep coming, and we respect them. Our trade also, in terms of retail sector development. So it is in this context of relationship that I believe that people need to appreciate the warmth that we have between our two people.
And that warmth seems to be increasing also in terms of tourism. If you look at figures, again, I think it's increasing 20% annually, Indian tourists coming into Seychelles. Would I be right in saying that initially, to preserve the ecosystem, something like Bhutan's model, Seychelles encouraged high-end or high-paying tourists, not tourists in large numbers who could destroy the ecosystem? And is that model changing in any manner to get more tourists to come in?
There is always going to be pressure. But our policy has been one centered on sustainable development. Small country, very small and fragile ecosystem. And we want to tap the high-end tourism. But within that, there's going to be space for other tourists to come to Seychelles. But we just need to be mindful that because of the fragility of our country in terms of its ecosystem and the long-term development in terms of from a point of view of sustainable development, we just need to have this balance between the environment and tourism and the amount of tourists at any one point in the country. Last year we had over 350,000, and I think it's a question that we need to manage it. But as president, I also look at the yield that needs to come from tourism, and also to ensure that there is what I call value chain in development, that tourism becomes the main revenue, main source of income, but what we derive from tourism should also help other sectors of the economy.
The Seychelles and in your policies are known for the blue economics that the Seychelles follows. But in terms of sustainable development in global warming, how the world is dealing with it, where does the Seychelles and where do you stand with how, say, how the US is walking out of deals where financial aid would have been given to smaller countries to bypass the normal route? How worried are you?
We signed the Paris Agreement.
Yeah, exactly.
We signed the Paris Agreement, and we still believe that that's the route for humanity, not for our countries individually, but that's the route for humanity. And I think that over time, those who have questioned that will come back. But I think the majority of the citizens of this world will continue to realize that their leaders took the right decision. And it is our responsibility now to shoulder that responsibility for generations to come, and not to vacillate, not to change positions as we go forward.
But President Faure, how worried are you? Because when you come in from the air and you see beautiful islands, you're also acutely aware of how just a slight rise in sea levels can wipe out so much of humanity and everything else, the species around human habitation and inhabitation.
Our battle cry is to get other people around the world to understand what is happening. It is no longer a question that you are comfortable in your own country and you believe that you can continue to make progress while others should regress, go back into abject poverty and remain marginalized. I think the question of our time today is climate change. And it's for low-income countries, middle-income countries, and high-income countries. In the recent Davos meeting, the world leaders, they read a report, and if they were asked what is the number one threat to development, and it's very clear, it is the climate change. It is a fact, it is reality. We from small countries, we say that, and I'm happy that a country like India has embarked on a very ambitious program on renewable energy. You have taken the lead together with France, building the Solar Alliance, giving other countries the opportunity to participate. These are the things that will continue to inspire others, and this is the type of leadership.
So again, President, in a nutshell, where would you describe India and Seychelles currently, and where would you see us going?
I would say that we have a bright future together. India is developing, in fact, very fast. So we're not far from India. We will benefit from trade, from tourism, from the technology, from the research that you're doing. So we'll continue to have this partnership. My administration will build on this partnership. And as I said, it is a partnership that is there to stay. And that's the future of the relationship that we have with India and Seychelles.
President Faure, partnership to stay. Thank you on that note, but you've made our stay so comfortable. It was also a slight request if you could. I have a couple of questions with you to show our viewers all over the world now, in fact, not just in India, the State House, and have a few personal questions about your life outside the State House. We were talking about continuity and change in Seychelles, and continuity in terms of what has happened in your past, been through immigrants, colonial past, but yet you're moving into the modern age. Yes. And the State House perhaps exemplifies that a lot in terms of the heritage, but you're trying to move forward into a modern era.
Yep, exactly.
A little bit of history on the State House, sir. Of course, now the presidents don't live here anymore.
No. Our first founding president, President Mankam, yeah, he used to live here. And then in the colonial times, the governors, but President Rene, President Michel, no, none of them, and I don't live here.
Again, just ending a little bit with your personal life, I do know you have, I think, 5 children and 4 grandchildren, or the other way around?
Yeah, I've got 5 children and 4 grandchildren. And
you did announce in the assembly after you took over that Seychelles is your main focus.
My main priority. In
the future, in the years to come.
Yeah, that is it. This is where I concentrate all my heart, my time, my passion.
Your children, your grandchildren, do you have time for them? Are they complaining to you like normal grandchildren and children do to their grandfather?
I see them during the weekend. So Sunday is when I spend time with them.
Yeah. President Faure, again, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. You've been very gracious host, and we hope to do that the same for you in another month.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
sir.
much.
Thank you.